Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time for a special video this Saturday on the channel as I'm naming all of my albums of the year from every year from the year 2000 right up until last year, right up until 2024. So I thought this would be a fun and interesting exercise to do on this channel, revisiting all of these albums and deciding whether they truly are my albums of the year from those particular years. And some of these are sort of retrospective picks in a way, or some of these weren't actually, weren't my albums of the year in the year that they were released. They became my albums of the year in hindsight after, sometimes in some cases, some years after the actual release of the album. So it's an interesting list because some of these albums have always been my albums of the year since the release year. Others have changed over time. Anyway, a couple of last things I want to say is that for each album, I'll just do a brief explanation of why these are my album of the year picks. I won't go to any great depth for this video because this video will otherwise go on for absolutely ages. And I'll also name maybe at least a couple of favourite tracks from every record as well. If you're new to the channel, do drop a like and a sub because I'm approaching that very magical metal number of 666. And who knows, maybe when you're watching this, you could be the 666th subscriber. But anyway, let's move on to this list now as I start with the year 2000 and my album of the year for that year, which was Soilwork's The Chain Heart Machine. So this was a bit of an entry album for me into the world of melodic death metal and the whole Swedish scene. And I absolutely loved this album pretty much from my first or second listen. I just loved the guitar work. I was really drawn in by the Peter Witchers and Olof Frenning guitar work in particular, and just the way they played off each other. Great riffage. Bjorn Strid sounds fantastic here with his really kind of super harsh and aggressive vocals on this record, I think. And it's just a lot of bite. There's a lot of, there's a real hyper kind of speed to this particular album. It's very fast paced but still melodic. It's a great record. I loved it from the first listen, and a pretty important album to me as well. So that's my choice for 2000, Soilwork's The Chain Heart Machine. My favourite tracks from that record, probably the title track, Generation Speedkill and Spirits of Future Sun. Now coming in next for 2001, we've got Kamelot's Karma, a melodic power metal album, their fifth studio album. And I thought this was when they were really finding their strides, having that mix of the kind of impressive kind of fast power metal sound, but on this one also a lot of melody and some great vocals and vocal lines as well. Kind of getting into that sort of Roy Khan era a bit more was this album, and I really love tracks like Karma, Elizabeth Parts 1 to 3, and The Spell. I feel like I've mentioned this album quite a bit recently on the channel for different reasons, but this is a great record from 2001. A bit of a retrospective choice because I didn't discover that album that year. It was some years later I actually discovered Karma by Kamelot, but I absolutely love it. Coming in next for 2002, an album that has been my album of the year since the release year. It has always been my album of the year for 2002. That's Killswitch Engage, Alive or Just Breathing. Incredible second album from the band here. Absolutely kind of huge sound to this album, really hard hitting. Love the production. Love tracks like Element of One, My Last Serenade. Those really stand out for me. Also like The Temple Within and the drum part of that particular song. Yeah, this is just really important as a kind of has a certain amount of personal importance to me. This got me more into just kind of really heavier kinds of metal, very melodic metalcore. It was kind of almost as well a cornerstone album for a lot of people. This album is loved for a good reason. It's a great record. That's Alive or Just Breathing by Killswitch Engage as my pick for 2002. And that's not going to change, probably not ever. Next up for 2003, we've got Enslaved Below the Lights. As the band were manoeuvring more towards, I think, their progressive sound, I don't think they were the whole way there yet. You had that more with albums like Retier and E that were to come later. But this one comes after Monumention, which was more experimental for sure. But it's still got, I think, you can still hear that they're in that sort of black metal era as well. I mean, they've always been black metal, right? But they've not quite gone full prog. Yeah, and I really like this album. I just love the rhythm arrangements are really good. The rhythmic arrangements are great. Love tracks like Dead Stare, Havenless, and A Darker Place in particular as my favourites from Below the Lights. Next up, we're going to talk about my 2004 album of the year, which is Nightwish's Once. Now, I'm a big fan of Nightwish, but I am always, probably a Target era lover the most. that is just the era where I find most of what I enjoy about Nightwish. I enjoy the powerful, sound when they were a little bit less expansive and indulgent. I liked it more when Nightwish were a bit more concise. And this album kind of comes almost at that turning point where they went very big and epic and bombastic. But still, I liked the gothic style of this album. I think it's a very kind of, it gets that sort of, it has that gothic beauty about it. I love Nemo, really love Nemo, really love Ghost Love Score. Really love Wish I Had an Angel as well, and Marco's part in that. Just a great album, one of my Nightwish favourites. For 2004, wasn't a huge amount of competition for me in that year as such, or any competition I could particularly find or remember. So it had to be Once by Nightwish, an album which launched them into the stratosphere for symphonic metal. Coming in next for 2005, we've got a non-metal choice with Sea Power and Open Season, their second album. And this was just, I think, the thing I like about them, which I always say, time and again, ad nauseum on this channel, is that they kind of have a bit of a post-punk sound. That's why I really like them. They weren't like your average 2000s indie rock bands that, had that kind of similar sort of sound. I really liked the way that kind of made them stand apart, and loved the vocals. I love the lyrics on this album, actually. I don't always connect to lyrics, but I like the way they managed to write lyrics sentimentally about an iceberg, for instance, in this particular record, and it's just a really clever album. I personally love tracks like It Ended on a 90s Stage, Be Gone, and Oh Larson B. Coming in for 2006, we've got Mastodon, and we've got Blood Mountain. Huge album, one that will never change for me. I think 2006's favourite album for me will always be this third album from Mastodon. It's just epic in scope. I love the concept. I love the way the album wastes no time, and you go straight away into that really fast, angry riff with The Wolf Is Loose. Doesn't let up. You've got lots of technicality here. I opened my mind to actually listen to more technical kinds of metal music as well. This one was another sort of gateway album for me into new territories with progressive metal and technical kinds of metal. So yeah, huge album for me from 2006, Mastodon's Blood Mountain. 2007, we got Between the Buried and Me and Colours, another great progressive metal album here. One that was more extreme, and I kind of took a while to get used to this. This is actually one of those retrospective kind of picks, because I don't think this was my album of the year back in 2007. It wasn't until early 2010s I think I really probably got into BT Bam, as they get called. And I loved this record though when I first heard it. I loved its scope, loved its ideas, loved the way the transitions between the tracks work really well too. And I love Informal Gluttony. The album closer, White Walls, another one I really like, is Son of Nothing. It's just a brilliant, brilliant masterpiece from BT Bam. Next up for 2008, we've got Meshuggah and Obscene. What a great album. For me, this is one of the more digestible Meshuggah albums. I think a lot of their albums would be quite hard and obscure for someone to get into quickly. But this album, out of all of them, has a kind of repetitive and enough groove to it that I feel like this one is just a little bit more digestible. And it's my favourite album for 2008. I just really, really love Obscene. I love Dances to a Discordant System, Pineal Gland Optics, another one of my favourites. Just a brilliant, brilliant, extreme, technical, progressive metal. Whatever you want to call Meshuggah, they kind of stand apart for me. They're their own thing, and they're absolutely awesome. Coming in for 2009, Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue, the Dark Horse disc. I won't talk too much about this. Did a whole video on it with JC Rocker Metal Reviews and Chill Tubes on the Couch back in 2021 or 2022 even. And we spoke about this album at length there. I will maybe drop a link into that, or I'll put it up as a little link on the screen, and you can check that out. Absolutely brilliant album. One of the best comeback albums for me ever, despite it not having the iconic Layne Staley singing. I just thought the way they made this album work at times felt like his spirit and emotion was within this record. It was absolutely haunting. At times also brilliant riffage, heavy stuff, great production. Black Gives Way to Blue, that's everything I personally love about Alice in Chains, despite missing iconic singer Layne Staley. Love tracks like Your Decision, Private Hell, and the title track on this one. That's my pick for 2009, Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue. For 2010, we got Deftones, Diamond Eyes. One for you, Hector. I absolutely love this album. For me, could be my favourite Deftones record. I've never done a Deftones ranking, but this one might just be my favourite, even with albums like White Pony, Other ones I love, like Koinonia Can and Saturday Night Wrist. I tend to like the shoegazier Deftones albums. Personally, for me, I love them when they go all kind of full shoegaze. And you get a sort of blend here, though, of their heavy style, punky style with that shoegaze. But they do it in such a way, this album feels so perfectly put together. Like, it is just flows absolutely perfectly. I can't think of another way of putting it without repeating myself once again. Great album. I really love You've Seen the Butcher, Risk and Sex Tape. Sex Tape is a fantastic track. Chino is brilliant on this album. His vocals are incredible here. I think his performances are exemplary. Really great album from 2010. Now 2011, my pick is Within Temptation and The Unforgiving, with that kind of comic book album cover. I love it. I love Sharon's vocals, just Sharon generally, to be honest. She's brilliant. But this album kind of was not as bombastic and epic as previous Within Temptation albums, but that really worked here. They went for a more straightforward melodic rock sound, and every track hits brilliantly. The production is great on this one too. It is just an amazing record. Go check this one out if you like Within Temptation. Or if you don't know it already. I'm sure you know it already, actually, if you like Within Temptation. My favourite tracks are the Shot in the Dark, not the Aussie track, Fire and Ice and Iron, but this one's got lots and lots of great songs on it. Now, my choice for 2012 is Wild Nothing and Nocturne, a dream pop album. And this one was different because for the first album, I think Jack Tatum did it very much as a home recording. But for this one, he went to a studio, got on board this producer called Nicholas Furness, I think is his name. And it's a really kind of well-produced, earwormy dream pop album with absolutely beautiful tunes and themes. And you've got a track on here I love called Paradise, which is very synth pop, very New Order-like. And it's brilliant, and just so much on this record that I personally really dig. Wild Nothing's Nocturne, a non-metal pick coming in for the year 2012. 2012 is perhaps the best year of my life as well, as it happens. I absolutely love 2012 so many good things happened then. It was such a great year. But anyway, let's not go on for a tangent. Let's go to 2013 next. Soilwork, The Living Infinite. I enjoyed the songs Tongue, Antidotes in Passing, Paradise Blues, and obviously Elephant in the Room, the second Soilwork album. That's my album of the year. Very different from Chain Heart Machine, totally different, but almost as good for me. You know, it's got a great range of songs, double disc, so maybe for some people it'd be a bit long, but I think there are so many, it's a really good variety. It's an album showing Soilwork's versatility and depth, and that they can write great songs as well as show you how good they are at instrumentation like they did in their early Melodeath days. This is a great album. I love The Living Infinite. I think it's terrific. That's my 2013 pick. Coming up next for 2014, we've got Paul Barrett and Foundations of Burden. Classic, beautiful, heavy, crushing doom metal album from these guys. They just never miss, really. I think they always produce the goods, although their latest album I was slightly less into, to be honest. But with Foundations of Burden, got an absolute classic here. I love the sort of climbing melodies, the absolutely huge, crushing, sludgy guitars. It just all comes together beautifully for me on this record in particular. It's very haunting. Tracks like Ashes. I love Worlds Apart, the opener. That track is absolutely brilliant. Also Foundations, that song, the title, I think it's a title track. That's also great. Coming in for 2015, we've got Pink Johnny Ultra Blast and Everything Else Matters. Another album I've talked about quite a few times on this channel. Another non-metal pick coming in to the list here. Just a great sounding album. I've always said it makes me, it's kind of got this euphoric vibe about it. A lot of shoegaze albums, they have a slow mellowness about them, melancholy about them. But with this record, you sort of get that, but at the same time, it's lively. A lot of it's up-tempo. It's this sort of really, I think it's a really well-produced album. It kind of gets the sound that it wants down to a T. Personally, I love the bass work as well on this record. It's so unique. For me, a lot of people say, yeah, it's just a shoegaze album, but for me, it's so much more than just that. I think this is special, and there are really kind of underground bands that very few people know about unless you're very into shoegaze generally. Like, people tend not to shout out Pink Shiny Ultra Blast. One for you guys to get into if you love your shoegaze. My favourite tracks from this are Umi, Rave Star Supreme, awesome track, and Marigold, the album closer, which is just spellbinding, hypnotic even, I would call it. Catatonia and Fall of Hearts comes in for 2016. Beautiful prog rock kind of an album, I guess. Still has their gothic and doomy edge. Very smooth, but at the same time very technical. So by smooth, I mean everything flows nicely into each other. It's very gentle, but at the same time it's technical because what they're playing is kind of odd at times and different time signatures, I feel, and yet it's still really great stuff from Catatonia, my favourite album from 2016. Favourite tracks: Serene, Residual and Passer. For 2017 we got Always and Antisocialites, a masterpiece for me, and 2017 is always between this and Thresholds, Legends of the Shires. Legends of the Shires got me through that year, but Always Antisocialites I discovered a bit later, and that kind of got me through the first lockdown. They both are very, very important albums to me personally, and they both carry a lot of weight, but Always Antisocialites wins out for this list. It's just an absolutely beautiful album. Really sort of just half an hour of fantastically, beautifully written and produced tracks from Molly Rankin, Kerry McLean as the keyboardist, and Alec, I always forget his surname, Alec O'Hanlon, I think. He's brilliant too. Love this band, love what they do. All their albums are great as well. They've done 3 so far, all hits for me. And Socialites comes in for 2017. For 2018 we've got Inferi and Revenant. Amazing, expansive, super fast, super mind-boggling technical death metal here, or melodic death metal. There's sort of bits of melody as well, and it's just so fast. I at first didn't really get into it much, but I went back to this album in the kind of autumn of 2018 and I realised how awesome it was, and it quickly became my album of the year, even beating Rivers of Nihil, where Owls Know My Name. And I still think this is my album of the year, Inferi's Revenant. It is just so ambitious, so fast. Like I say, it might take time for you to get into this one, but I love Condemned Assailant, Beckoning Thrall, Behold the Bearer of Light featuring the late Trevor Strnad on vocals as well. For my pick for 2019 was Insomnium and Heart Like a Grave. Of course, we're getting into the list now, which already exists on the channel, and this one is possibly my all-time favourite Insomnium album as well. Very late on in their careers, you know, they've done several albums before this one, I think. This one was their 8th studio album, and boy does this one really hits emotionally. I think it really gives you the feels. There are these soaring guitar solos, great melodies, great rhythmic arrangement. I really love Mute Is My Sorrow. Mute Is My Sorrow has that kind of that strumming and guitar playing. That you know the bit where it goes dun 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 dun. Question and answer. That's what they call it. It's a question and answer thing, I think, where you get kind of one bit and like then there's a sort of answer to that part of the song. It's just a brilliant bit of guitar work there. My choice for 2020 is Emma Ruth Rundle and Thou. May Our Chambers Be Full. Favourite tracks: Monolith, Out of Existence and The Valley. One of my all-time favourite collab albums, I think this has become. Always in contest with Ulcerate's Staring to Death and Be Still, and this is one where, again, I could choose either of those 2 albums for 2020, but Emma Ruth Rundle and Thou I particularly enjoyed. I love the way her ambience and her style was very well mixed with Thou's thumping, hardcore, sludgy sound. But the two work very well on this album. You wouldn't think it, but they work so well together. And it's one of the best collabs I've probably ever listened to. And that is Emma Ruth Rundle and Thou, 2020's Album of the Year. Next up for 2021, we've got Jotun and Access All Worlds. Great band, great album from that year. Won't talk about this one too much. I've talked about it a lot in the past. Love Layhan's Golden Pits, The Weaver System. And one of my all-time favourite proggy album closers is Safe Across the Endless Night. If you're new to Jotun and you haven't checked out this album, make sure you check it out, and also make sure you do listen to it right to the end, because that album closer is incredible. For 2022, I've got Persephone and Metanoia. Another one I don't need to talk about at length because I've talked about it quite a bit in the past too. Architecture of the Eye, Aware of Being Watched. Oh my god, that's such an amazing song. I love the dovetail. There's a dovetail in that track where they kind of repeat what they do at the start at the end, but by the end you kind of cleverly, it's sort of just like, it sort of takes you by surprise, and it's just the best kind of feeling ever when that last bit of that song comes in. It just gives me goosebumps. So yeah, I love that track. I love Consciousness Part 3. I love everything that this prog death metal album offers. Persephone, Metanoia is my choice for 2022. Now, 2023, we've got Tesseract, War of Being. Probably my favourite album of the 2020s decade so far. This one just really, really connected with me in 2023. I don't know what it was, but when this came out, it absolutely hit me hard. and I just really felt drawn into it. I love that sound that they do. I love Dan Tompkins' vocals. Vocal performances on this album are just scintillating stuff, you know. Love all the different arrangements on it. It flows really well as a progressive kind of an album. Their djent sound, I think, is great here too. Like, they're doing all the right djenty kind of things. I don't know how otherwise to describe it. But lovely cleaner moments and softer tracks as well in between the heavier barrage of that djent sound. It's just, I think this is a great album. Still listen to this one a lot now. This could be even a high up in my all-time albums list. It's had that kind of an impact on me since 2023. It really has. Tesseract War of Being, awesome album. Favourite of the decade maybe so far. Now 2024 is Unleash the Archers and Phantom R. I may not talk about this much at all because this video's gone on for ages and I've talked about Unleash the Archers, Phantom R like how many times now? It feels like several times at least. You guys, just check out my album review. You know I love this album. It's power metal combined with the 80s arena rock thing, and it just works for me. I just loved it. It's just kind of like, again, I kind of spiritually connect to this album in some way. It just ticks the kind of things I like to hear, and Brittany Slayes is awesome. Scott Buchanan's awesome. I just love a lot about this band since I discovered them last year. So yeah, that was my album of the year for 2024. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video once again. And don't forget to drop a like and a sub, as I said earlier in the video. Until next time, have great weekends. Bye for now.